we're live.
Hi guys, what's up? How are you, Morgs?
Good, I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
I'm doing good. Hang on, I'm just gonna open up our live stream so I can see
Yeah.
it. We're back and better than ever. Blood, Sweat, and
Mm-hmm.
Games. Is- You know what really drives me crazy?
What?
Drives me really bananas. Um,
Bananas?
is when Gabs, could you say something in the chat so I can just make sure the chat is working? Our moderator Gabby, shout out. Shout out. Okay. It just Kick is in, as we know, fam, Kick is in beta. And it's a little annoying, I'm not gonna lie to you. It annoys me. There are certain things you can do on Twitch that you can't do on Kick. And yeah, it's frustrating, to be real with y'all.
I agree.
Um
Okay. I just tested the chat as well. It seems
oh,
to be
got it.
working. Mm-hmm.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, guys, if you are listening to this just as audio or whatever, if you're watching this live, don't forget to subscribe. You can obviously subscribe to our Kick. We are on, we have a live VOD on YouTube that I will be uploading probably on Mondays, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Mondays. I actually don't even think it matters when we upload it as long as we do it
Right.
a little
Yeah.
bit after. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're uploading the VODs on Mondays or whenever the heck this happens. We record every Wednesday,
Mm-hmm.
depending on if something comes up, but largely it's on Wednesdays. So maybe the VOD could be uploaded on like a Thursday. But you can subscribe to our YouTube. We're on Kick. We have the audio version on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So lots of opportunities for you to listen. We're also on TikTok. We're on Instagram. You can't fucking avoid us, okay? We're here.
We're everywhere.
We're everywhere. Um, so yeah, we love you so much and thanks for all your support. Okay, we have two viewers on Kick, so
Oh, we have three
let's
viewers,
go.
and one of them's Gabby. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. How are you, Morgs? What's going on, girl? Any news, any gossip?
Um, Let me see. Oh my God. So, remember, I told you this, but I didn't talk about it here. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. I think I
Oh,
am.
be careful.
If not, I'll just cut it out in the post.
Okay.
But I told you that I was uh trying to get on this
Should you
game
talk about?
show. I
Oh,
know. I
okay,
was
okay,
really
okay.
like, I just like can't. I think I just can't say what the game show
I
is.
thought you were going to talk about the other thing.
Oh
So I was
no.
like, you
Yeah.
definitely can't talk about that.
You're right. You're like, don't say it. No. Okay. So, the background story is, God, right when COVID started, I saw the rise of reality TV, and then me myself, I was like, oh my God, I want to be
Show
on
yourself.
reality TV. So I
Yeah,
went
yeah,
and
yeah.
I like I didn't audition, but I submitted a self tape to
Mm.
this reality TV show. I don't even think that reality TV show is a big thing. It was like about 20 something year olds. Submitted my tape, never heard back. And then years later, so basically recently, somebody reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I'm a casting director, and we're
Mm.
trying to find the final candidates for this game show. It's like a pop culture game show." And
Oh, dream.
I was like,
Dream.
"Oh, okay." I was like, I'm up to date on the big things of pop culture. I don't know that I'm an expert, but he was like, whatever, do your best. Like if you're interested in being on the show, like he gave me the details, and I had to go through like several rounds where I was like taking up a pop culture quiz, and then I was
Right.
like doing this. It's not like not an interview, but I was like being the best version of myself, where I was like, "Hey guys, I'm Morgan, and I'm a pop culture expert." And I was like, "Oh God," but I made it past the final round, and they want me on the show. So,
I'm dead. Wait,
mhm.
are you so is this you're hosting it or you're just on one
I'm a
episode?
candidate. No, okay. So the way that this
Oh.
most game shows, you bring on new people like every episode, but the way that this one is structured, they said all the candidates like stay on for the entire series. for like the entire for multiple episodes. So I'll be there filming for like 6 days or something like
Oh
that.
my God. You have to get me tickets to one of the live shows
I don't, yeah, I don't know. So it's in a, okay, I
or
don't,
one of the shows
yeah,
for the
yeah. I
game
don't know if they're
shows.
going to
Yeah.
do that, but if they do, I absolutely will. But it's not based in LA. I don't think I'm allowed. I don't know if I
Oh.
don't know what I signed an NDA, but I don't remember
Babe,
what
shut
was in
up.
it.
Bestie, shut up. Shut up. Oh my God. You are one of the biggest wild cards. I would love to read your astrology birth chart. I don't know what you're going to do. You are a logical, calm, organized queen, and yet you're also so crazy and just
I
up to
just,
something all the time.
yeah, I'm just like in my
And
corner. I'm like, like what
you're
can I do?
plotting.
Yes, I'm plotting. So
Yeah. I reckon you've got Sagittarius somewhere on your chart. I really, really do because I'm a Sagittarius and that is some Sagittarius shit.
I'll send you my birth chart. I remember
Yeah.
looking it up before, but I don't really know what it's saying. So I'll send it to you and you can tell me
I
if
would
that
love to
aligns
know.
with what you think and what you know about me.
Yeah, I'd be so curious. I love reading people's birth charts. It's just so interesting. I'm like, oh, that makes sense, you know? Well, that's so exciting. I can't wait to ride on your coattails. All aboard the clout train. I'm getting on board. I hope you go.
Miranda, I tried to get you in. I don't know if I told
I
you this
know
last time. I was
you
like,
did.
they were interviewing me. I was like, by the way, my friend loves pop culture. They're like, great, honey. Like, we're. It's like, okay.
You're like acting like it's like a bar job where you
I
can
know.
just be like, oh, do you know what though? I do that with like so much stuff. I'll be like, I actually know someone really good for this. And sometimes you would be shocked at how often they'll be like, okay,
Yeah, because I figure you never know. Worst comes to worst, it'd be
you
like,
never
not right
know.
now. But in other case, it'd be like, maybe Miranda can be on the show, and she actually
Yeah.
is a pop culture baddie. Like,
Yeah, I really do know some pop culture things. It's probably the only life skill I have, but it's largely useless, except making me seem kind of bimbo-y, but it's a fun thing. It's a party trick,
it
and
is
you're only going
fun.
to get more informed as this goes on.
I agree.
God,
So
bless
that's the
it.
that's the biggest news. So,
When are you going?
filming is at the end of September.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness. All right, queen.
I'm
Look at
nervous. I'm nervous. I'm actually thinking of studying up, like maybe going to BuzzFeed, taking some of these quizzes. Like send me some reference.
you. Well, I can definitely send you some
Yeah.
podcasts.
Okay, send
For
me.
sure. For sure. It depends. Are they going like we talk after. I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
send
yeah,
you some
yeah.
podcasts and I would just love to know the specifics because saying pop culture is very
It's
broad.
super broad. Yeah, it is. I think
Yeah.
I have an idea of what things they'll be testing on and the type of questions. So we'll talk after the podcast so that you can
Mhm.
help me because I don't think I need to know crazy detail about people's lives. I just need to know who they are in big moments in history type stuff.
Okay.
We'll
Okay.
see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We can talk and I can definitely help you. But that's really exciting. God. Good for you. What are you going to do about work? You just take it off?
You know what? I haven't decided yet. I'm
Oh
gonna
my
work
God.
from home. They're not shooting every day, so I'm gonna work from
Okay.
home the days that they're not shooting. But I'm probably gonna need to take PTO because it's full day. It's a full day thing. They told me on the days that they're
Yeah.
shooting.
And emotionally, like you really don't want to schedule something on the day you've got to shoot something. Like
I
really
believe
keep it
that.
minimal. You won't be able to, you'll just be like it's an overwhelming experience and it's very like it's just a lot of exposure. You kind of need to come home and like
Yeah,
be chill, you know?
yeah. I feel like it's gonna be mentally and emotionally exhausting.
Yeah, like not in a bad way, but just like okay, this is like who the fuck has been on a game show before? Not too many people, so it's gonna be. We've been on one together. What am I talking about?
Oh, that's true. We have been. It's gonna be quite different from the one that we've been on, though.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but you were so good on the one that we went on. Like, dude, you were like fucking like I don't want to sound like a douchebag, but like I'm an actor and I've done like a lot of interviews and I have like some media training and stuff, and you were like for like better than me. I was like, damn, and you were improving too. You
Gas
were
me
real
up,
good.
gas me up. That's why I'm thinking of taking improv classes. I think I told you
Yeah.
this. I want to do. I think that's good in business too. Actually, like improv
Yeah.
classes. So I think I'll let you guys know. when I come
Yeah,
back.
definitely. Well, none of those classes that I told you about were improv
I know,
classes.
I still want to do
Yeah.
those, but it made me think that I wanted to take improv classes because those can impact my like professional life too, I would say.
Yeah. Okay, I can recommend improv for
Okay,
sure.
cool.
Yeah.
Exciting.
All right. Well, that's so exciting. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks.
Let's move on to gaming news. I have a few things to talk about. First off the bat, I just want to let you guys know that, well, by the time this episode airs, this will have already happened, but I can talk about it in the next episode. I am going to Valorant Champions this Saturday. I wish you were coming,
I
Morgan.
really wanted to go.
I
I
got
really
really
want to
good
go.
tickets, right? It gave me like really good tickets, and I'm sitting with all the VAs, and it's going to be like really fun. I have some people that I talk to online that I've just, friends that I have online that I've never met in real life that I'm going to be meeting. And this is the culmination of a lot of hard work for these pro players. So, in case you don't know, guys, and I'm sure you do, the Valorant Champions Tour is a global competitive esports tournament series for the video game Valorant. Organized by Riot Games, the game's developers, the series runs multiple events throughout each season, culminating in the Valorant Champions, the top level event of the tour. So we are going to be watching the best of the best. So maybe I'll go say hi to whoever's meeting me and wins.
You
You know?
should. That's super. I'm actually so jealous. I'm sad that I'm gonna be in Mexico. I mean, I'm excited for Mexico, but I'm sad that they
Yeah.
coincide at the same time.
I know that's such bad luck, but
Mm.
yeah, I'm really excited to go and see like a couple of the VAs that not all of them can come, but I'm excited and I'm gonna try to make some content. I definitely don't want to miss that opportunity to make Val content. That would be so fun. So yeah, so that's exciting, guys. DM me if you went or your opinions on it. I would love to hear it. Um, Now, what I wanted to talk about was like a couple of more like hardcore gaming things in terms of releases. We have had the biggest year of video game releases. I don't know if you've been aware of this, Morgan. Have you been thinking about this?
Yeah, we've talked about some of the big games in the past, like the new Zelda game they came out. We just talked about Baldur's Gate. Well, I don't know if that's considered the biggest, but it ended up being a huge
Oh, it
release.
was very
Yeah,
influential in the end.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I know, big year. I'm
Yeah,
glad.
some really like big year. Interestingly, there is some kind of like feedback almost along the lines of like too big of a year, too many things coming out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you know as well as I do that game development starts, well, you know way better than me really. That game development starts like 5 years before the game is released, probably. Sometimes longer. So these gaming companies can only plan so much, right? Like they don't know exactly when things are going to come out as they're releasing these games. But there has been some feedback like this market right now is crowded, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, I just wanted to read to you some of the games that are coming out in September. Guys, this is just in September, right? And these are some of the big ones. So this isn't even all of them. Rune Factory 3, Starfield, Baldur's Gate 3, it's already out. Final Fantasy 7, Ever Crisis, Fae Farm, NBA 2K24, don't know what that is, Myth Force, Super Bomberman R2, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, cute fucking name, The
Mm-hmm.
Hidden Treasure of Area Zero, okay, love, Baton Patios, Monster Hunter Now, The Crew, Gloomhaven, Lies of P, Mortal Kombat 1? What's that?
You know what games do? What I've been seeing recently, and like Final Fantasy, for example, has been doing this. They re-release their old games to run on
Oh.
newer consoles to run better like
Ooh,
graphics.
that's
They make
sick.
minor changes, but they do it, and because there's such a fandom around these games, they do well. Like Final
Mm,
Fantasy re-releasing their games still tends to do really well, brings in $1 million in sales, even though
mm.
they literally made the original game, God, years ago.
You
So
know what would be cool about that is like the old like graphic, like the old animation. Like it'd just be such nostalgia for so many people, I feel like.
that's really what it is. Like they're hitting on people's like nostalgia, and they're making so
Mhm.
it's you can play it on the newest, I don't know, PlayStation, the
What's
newest
interesting
Xbox.
about that is that we're seeing that in movies as well. And obviously, gaming and cinema, sort of like, chicken and the egg kind of vibes. They're all the same, really.
Hmm.
And it's interesting how, like, in times of like really high level of like political unrest or sort of social unrest that we might be experiencing, like post COVID, the economic crisis we're going through, we see a lot of nostalgia because it's escapism.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting that you mentioned that, that these video games are getting re-released for that reason because profiting off nostalgia is huge.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
Um,
movies have been doing it for so long. Like, how many Batman movies are there? They just keep
and I
bringing it
fucking
back.
drink it in, bitch.
Oh my God, me too.
Every time
Every
I'm
single
like,
one. I've
bring it
watched every
on.
Spider-Man that's come out. Like,
I'm not a Spider-Man girl. I'm like, I could care less, but let me tell you, I I cannot get enough of Batman. The Robert Pattinson one was the
it
greatest.
was very good. I still
The
like the
best.
Dark. I think for me, the Dark Knight was still my favorite, but I really, really enjoyed the Robert Pattinson
I was
version.
like, holy shit, it like really like start to finish 10 out of 10. That their version of Gotham City in that one was sick.
Yeah. And did you know that I don't know if this is true, but I heard that he refused to get like very bulky for it. Like
Yeah.
most Batman like put on a lot of weight and he was like, "No, no, no, I'm
Right.
just going to stay as I am."
And he's fucking hot.
He
Robert
is.
Pattinson is like,
He's got like a
he's such
manic hotness that I Mhm.
Robert Pattinson is also so fucking talented. Like, say
He's
less. I
he's a
mean,
very good actor. I feel like people give him a lot of shit because of Twilight, but he's actually a
right.
very good actor.
You know what's so funny about that? Kristen Stewart is one of my favorite actors of all time.
She's a great actress as well. People give her so much shit for Twilight as well.
Yeah, she's so fucking good. And
Agree.
it's crazy. Like both of them are so brilliant and they got their start in this just god awful series of movies,
Yeah.
you
I'm
know?
still on Twilight TikTok. I still
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we love it. We make fun of it
Okay.
a lot, but we did enjoy it. So,
Oh my God. Okay. Well, hang on 2 seconds. I'm sorry, guys. Just give me 1 second. Just an email that Randy can't escape. Hang on. Sorry if I don't reply to my agent, she's gonna absolutely lose her mind and she's gonna start calling me. So, oh my
is
God,
this your
hang
voice
on.
acting agent or your actor?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm like, fuck. Okay.
Like, don't call me
Sorry,
right
because
now.
yeah, I'm like, oh God, I should have responded to that email. Because I didn't sign something. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so we also have Party Animals, Payday 3, EA Sports FC, Cocoon, RoboCop, Rogue City. That's a lot of fucking games. That's a lot of games.
That's a lot of games. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Like a lot of times when you're publishing a games, at the very least, what publishers try to do is like for other big games in the same genre, because they assume like their target player base is going to be the same. They try to avoid at least releasing when other big games are going to be released of the same genre. Or if they're AAA games, like they'll try to avoid being released at the exact same month as another AAA game. They do their best to do that, but they don't
Yeah.
always hit it.
Well, because I don't know, and tell me if I'm wrong, but like you can plan for like, okay, like we'll push it back a month, push it back 2 months, but that space becomes very complicated, you know?
Yeah, I would say like usually a year out, sometimes even more, you're already targeting a date. So like even if you're three
Yeah.
years in, you're like, okay, we're targeting 2025 Q4, right, for our game, even though we have a whole year and a half. So they're like a lot of times they pick a time frame and they're targeting to release in that time frame. And then they'll narrow down to the month, but they'll look at like how closer they are to actually finishing the product. Are they going to be able to sustain the product afterwards? What are other games being released in the same time frame that have made announcements? That's why like big game conventions, a lot of times the games will come up being like, oh, next year we're releasing Final Fantasy, the next one. You know what I mean? And so they'll announce it so games could kind of like know when they're when other games are going to be released, at least those like within the AAA game space.
Yeah. And it's funny actually because it makes you realize that like people do need to give companies, I mean, God forbid I like defend a corporation, but I do think you have to give these companies a certain amount of grace because I even know as a voice actor, and this is for TV too, like, oh my God, you can't even imagine how much rescheduling there is.
Mm.
You know, like I did something called looping. This was before the strikes. I did something called looping for an Apple series. Do you know what looping is?
No, I don't know. I don't know that term.
It's like, it's really bizarre, right? Like you're doing background voices for a show and they get you
Hmm.
to improvise all these background voices. So they're like, you're British and you're in a cafe and you're ordering a coffee. And you're like,
Oh,
Can I get a coffee? Like, it's fucking crazy. And
yeah.
then you're like, but you do it as a group. They call them loop groups.
Hmm.
And they'll be like, okay, someone be American. And there's like normally four of you. And you just, okay, you're in a bar and you're arguing about who gets to order the beer first. And you just like do these voices. It's so bizarre. But it makes like the background noise of a TV show. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
it does. You know what?
Yeah.
I just like as a consumer, I never thought about that, like where
Right.
that comes
Right.
from. Okay, but that makes sense.
I'm sure it will not exist in like a year because of AI.
AI. Hmm.
Loop groups are definitely a thing of the past. It is like doing live theater. It's the most bizarre experience. But I was in a loop group for this Apple TV show. Oh fuck. I'm sure I can say that. That's fine. And I didn't say which one.
A lot of secrets today.
A lot of secrets. But yeah, and why am I telling you this story? Oh, it got rescheduled. I can't even tell you how many times because it's just like there's so much that goes into like going into a studio and recording something, and then you think about something like because I'm a voice actor, I'm either working in video games or like animation and stuff. Think about the fact that there's also like the animation aspect of it,
Hmm.
right? So that's like the art department needs to be ready for the graphic of what you're saying, and it's like, so think about that in a game development sense, like in the pre-production of something, like how much goes into these things is just really like beyond almost comprehension at times because it's so involved.
Yeah, there's so many moving parts to it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like a lot of times they affect each other, right? So it's not like you can all do your work at the same time. Sometimes you need to have something and then you deliver that to a next group who works on it, who then delivers that to the next group. And so, yeah, I mean, that's why like producers are so important in gaming because they actually help keep everything together, especially when you have like a studio of 100, 200, 300 people working on it. Like, how can you get everybody on the same page, right? So,
Do you think you could ever be a producer? I feel like you'd be good at that.
I've actually thought about it. I really, really like the work that I do now, but a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times executive when you're thinking like head of the studio, executive producer, running their own studio, like they come from a producer background because they got to get shit done. Like they're trying to make $1 million game. Um, and so I've thought about like, do I need to get really of those core skill sets together if someday I want to run my own studio?
When you say that, do you mean like work on a TV show? What do you
No,
mean by that?
like a gaming studio. like
Oh,
like so like
okay.
so yeah so we have like producers in games, and
No,
so
no, I know what you mean,
mhm.
but like, I thought you were saying like for you to have those producer skills, you would have to get them through working in like television, or that people have them because they're from film and
Oh,
television.
no, like the get the gaming producer skills, so I would just need to do
Oh.
like a production role in games.
Oh, so you're saying that you would kind of have to pivot your career a little bit to get to the point where you had the skill set to go there.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of overlap between what I do and what they do. They're a lot more execution based sometimes than I do. Like sometimes I'll get into
Okay.
like the design portion, the systems design of it all, right? Like, and so there's definitely some overlap, but yeah, we'll see. Someday I do want to be like executive producer of a game of my own studio, so I'm gonna need to build up those skill sets. I work
Oh,
very closely with my own producer. I have my own who
I
like
know you'll do it, I feel
manages
like.
me. Oh, thank you.
That's like,
You're
oh
one
my
of my
God.
biggest hype women, and I love it.
My one of my best friends, Bailey, always says that. She's like, "You are the most like." I'm like, "You're beautiful, you're amazing," but I'm not like just saying it. Like I mean it.
But that's why it
I
feels
just
good. It does, like, you don't feel like a yes man, like where you're just saying it to
no,
say it. You feel like when you're telling me this, I'm like, I can do it. You're right. You
no.
know?
That I text my mom and my mom and my sister like love you, and I'm like,
I want to meet them. I've never been to Australia, so I want to.
and then the news you told me the other night that we can't share. I like text them. They were like, "Oh, she's amazing." I'm like, "She is amazing."
Oh my God, they're the sweetest. I just know.
I definitely got that from them because I remember one time when I first moved to LA, my boyfriend and I were really really broke, and he took this job working for a company selling knives, and he had to travel around to like Walmart and like sell knives, and it was like a real low point in his life, right? Like he was like, but he was so broke, like he couldn't barely buy food. Like him and I really were like the epitome of like broke actors, you know? So he took this job and he was really down about it. And my mum and my sister came to town to visit and they took us out for dinner one night. And he was like embarrassed to tell them about this job. And he was like, it's just, it's not permanent. I just have to do this for now. You know, it's good money. I need the money and stuff. And when we left, he was like, God, your mom and your sister, wow, they really made me feel good about the job selling knives. He was like, I feel great about it now. Like, they were like, well, you're an amazing salesperson, Damien. Like,
Oh,
look at your face. You're so good looking.
that's so sweet.
He was like, I'm really feeling great about that job. I was like, yeah,
And you're like, aren't you glad you went to dinner?
exactly. Um, all right. God, I'm so fucking hot right now. Are you hot?
I have my
Is your
AC
house hot?
on. I do
Oh,
have the
fuck
AC
you.
on. Yeah.
Okay, well, what's it like, bitch?
Hmm.
I've only got a big fan. And it's so loud. You know what? I'm gonna try to turn it on, and you tell me
Okay.
if it's too loud.
Okay. Yeah. I'll
But
tell you if
because
I hear
maybe.
it.
Okay, hang on one second. Hang
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
second.
Oh, I'm waiting for you to put your headphones in.
Is it too loud?
I
It
can
is.
definitely hear it. No.
All right. Hang on. What if it's at that setting?
I don't hear anything now. It's good.
Oh my god. That's at like the lowest setting because I was like really getting so hot.
Yeah.
Has anyone commented in chat? I stopped paying attention.
Yeah. It's just me and Gabby. Ah, yeah.
I
She's so
God, you
cute.
guys. Oh my God. Hi, Gabby. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about, and I'll actually have to do this kind of quickly because we are going to maybe run a little over time because we still have 2 more segments after this. But I made a list of the 5 most controversial video games ever released. And you know, I had to. I just love shit like this.
Yeah.
So
I'm opening
I'm
Google
gonna-
so I can Google them when you say them.
Okay. First off the bat, in the 5 most controversial video games released, this is obviously up for debate, okay? So don't come for me in the comments. I don't want to hear it, okay? This is just what I think. In 1987, digital... Oh, no. Can you hear that?
I did hear. Is your
Yep.
fan?
It's the lawnmower outside. Alrighty,
Oh.
I'm just going to close the window. Just give me 1 second. It should help.
You know, which one, when she said controversial games, I don't think I've played any, but it made me think of that like Japanese beach volleyball one. I wonder if she's gonna put that on there.
It's the gardeners.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't hear anything anymore.
I closed the window. It
Oh.
should be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Well-
suffering in your heat box for this.
I faint.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one off the bat is Night Trap. So Digital Pictures in 1987 started developing and then eventually released in 1992 Night Trap. Night Trap has been rebuilt, bringing it to a level of video game quality that we've never seen before. So they like remade the game and now it's been re-released, which is what we were just talking about. So it's so interesting. But Night Trap tells the story of 5 teenage girls spending the weekend at the Martin home and then leads to them being hunted and killed. Now, at the time of its release, this was extremely controversial. And actually, when I think about it, probably still would be now if it was released now. You know what I mean?
It just sounds like a horror game.
Yes, it does. You're right. It does. That's what it is.
Okay.
And but you know that I'm a horror fan. And I will say to you that what's interesting about this is that, you know, in the 80s we had slashes, right? We had gore, we had Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, right? The original Halloween. We had all of those movies coming out. And then, you know, it kind of reached a point in the 80s with horror where they were like, horror's just getting to be so, like, it wasn't respected, you know, as like an art form. And then came Scream in the 90s, and we started to see a revival of horror. But really it was Scream that revived the horror genre. But it was a pretty big deal at this time, and it's really interesting that, like, in 1992 this game was released and horror was really having a moment. So it's kind of like interesting that this all happened at the one time. Like, it kind of sounds like the perfect time,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But politicians and conservatives were very upset. So were parents. It's kind of considered tame by today's standards, but certainly at the time, it was like, oh my God, you're hunting teenage girls? Not the teenage girls.
Yeah. You know, that makes sense. Because, you know, like, honestly, even until recently, and sometimes you still hear it today, that there's this false connection between video games and violence, and like, and especially that, like, thought was prevalent like many years ago, like 10 years ago, but
Sure.
especially when
Yeah.
this
Think
came out.
Columbine,
Yeah,
fucking
so people
Marilyn
must have been like,
Manson.
now you're literally murdering people in a
Right.
video game. So I can definitely see that being super controversial then.
And I think this, I could be totally wrong, but I think this was around the time of Satanic Panic, which was like, I won't even go into it. I'm going to talk too much. Google Satanic Panic. It's fucking interesting.
I
Okay.
will.
So, second up, and this is a very recent title. So, ooh. Oh, I see. Sorry, I was like, what was I writing in my notes? Okay, so it's been over a decade in the making from the minds behind the game referred to as 6 Days. We have 6 Days in Fallujah. Have you heard of this, Morgan?
I have not, but I'm Googling it right now. Oh, yeah, you can
So
get it on
it is.
Steam. Wait, released in 2023? Like, oh,
It was just
wow.
released. It was in the making for, I think, 10. Well, I think they're saying it was in the making for 10 years. That must be why I wrote that. And
That's a long
it's
time.
based on the real life war happening in Fallujah. So it'd be like releasing a game about what's happening in the Ukraine, right? So the problem with the game is that it's kind of insensitive,
Right.
and that it's also only from the viewpoint of the soldiers that carried out the orders. So there's no viewpoint of the citizens at all.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And it's just kind of like acting like the people of Fallujah, God, I hope I'm saying that correctly, have no sort of like agency, and are just victims, which actually they kind of are, but like they're like almost like deserving of it, really. And then
Yeah.
they're being killed in this game. It's kind of fucked
It's
up.
very like a tone deaf, insensitive
Yes.
game to come out. Yeah, okay.
Very problematic. So I thought that was interesting. Okay, so the next one, we've all heard of this game, Mortal Kombat. Now,
Yeah.
I know you're thinking, this is so tame, but it was crazy back in the day, right? Like when it first got released, it was
For their
considered
outfits or for the violence?
violence.
Okay.
Violence, and probably the outfits too, but actually everything I read never mentioned that. But politicians had a really strong case for censorship due to this game's blood and gore. And as well, same thing with Night Trap, minors being harmed in order to sort of like shift the story together. And interestingly, Mortal Kombat has only gotten more violent in years past. So it's still pushing the envelope, but it's not like really, like, no one really talks about it because it's like we're living in a completely different landscape,
Yeah.
you know, where we see so much violence in games and like, who cares?
Yeah.
So I think that's so interesting to think about how crazy that was.
Hmm.
The next one is a game we all know. Oh, we know it well, and that is Hogwarts Legacy.
Oh yeah, true.
And you know, I love to talk about it. J.K. Rowling being a TERF is a story for the ages. And I'll never get over it. I'll never recover from it. I'm a Harry Potter stan till I
Hmm.
die. I personally think it's fine to play this game. I will say that I do understand how she's kind of ruined this IP for a lot of people, and she definitely is transphobic. And I don't think, and you know, there was some commentary on the goblins being anti Semitic and being slaves in it, and also being the bad guys. So there's a lot of what outside of just the trans issues with J.K. Rowling and these insane tweets and her sort of movement to get trans people out of spaces, female spaces and male spaces. Very interesting argument. We had our first episode was about
I
Hogwarts
was about to
Legacy.
say, shout out back to our first episode. Yeah.
Shout out. And I will never, I'll always find it so interesting. That podcast she did was fascinating to me. J.K. Rowling is so interesting to me. And one of the greatest tweets that I ever tweeted, it was, should I fuck around and DM J.K. Rowling and ask her what her pronouns are? I just thought it would be the greatest thing ever. Oh, God. Okay. So, lastly, I want to talk about the most banned video game of all time, and it's Manhunt 2. So it was released in October of 2007, and it is described as a brutal, sadistic, and riddled with unrelenting visceral murder. Manhunt 2 is perhaps the most banned game worldwide. Countries such as Germany, New Zealand, and South Korea also banned its prequel, Manhunt, for blood, gore, and intense violence. Interestingly, it is set in the same universe as Grand Theft Auto. What? Like, that's fucking weird. When you hear the premise of it, I don't think that makes any sense, but okay. Manhunt 2 is a stealth action psychological survivor horror video game.
Hmm.
And it is the prequel to Rockstar's sinister action game about a man who wakes up in a living nightmare where he is being stalked for sport and must fight to find his way out. And it's actually kind of hard to find.
Interesting. Well, okay. I guess it makes
Mm-hmm.
the only reason they're probably in the same universe is they're made by the same developer, Rockstar. I just looked it up.
But I thought that meant that, like, they had some linking storyline or something
Well,
linking them.
yeah, it does. I guess it does. Like it's in the same world. Like what's happening in Grand Theft Auto and what's happening here is literally in the same plane. But I guess they just did that because
Strange.
it's by the same developer. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No, I knew it was by the same developer. I guess, I was like, oh, that's,
interesting. Manhunt 2. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
reading it right now.
Doesn't it look?
It's got a 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb and a 7.5 out of 10 on IGN. I don't know
Do
who's
you think
rating
that's good?
these.
Is that good? You reckon?
I'm trying to think who's rating them. If these are player ratings or these are like
They're normally
critic
they're
ratings.
normally they're normally people rating them.
Yeah, because sometimes you'll have like Metacritic scores for games. It'll be game critics who review it, and then separately you'll have the player reviews, and they'll actually have separate ratings for both.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
I wonder, but
Interesting. Yeah. God, I haven't gone on my IMDb in a while. I'm on it now. I'm like,
I'm
ooh,
gonna check you
hello.
out.
Fine, fine. Depressing. Yeah, so I just thought that was so interesting and yeah, I loved researching it. Like I was like, it's a fun little story.
Yeah, it's interesting because of all the context like behind it and to hear about it, and also the timing matters. It sounds like for a lot of these games
Timing
too.
matters. Timing fucking matters. And I thought that that was so interesting because I initially kind of like thought of that when I was reading about Night Trap because I was like, oh, it's so interesting that this was 1992 because I know exactly what was happening in the horror landscape in 1992 because of Scream being my favorite movie of all time and me researching horror. So I was like, oh, that's so fucking interesting. And even if you think about something like Hogwarts Legacy, right? It's really important contextually, context matters, to know, okay, like if this was 10 years ago, would we care as much, A, about trans rights, but B, also J.K. Rowling wouldn't have even tweeted that shit yet.
Yeah, exactly.
You
A
know?
lot of that one is tied. The controversy is tied to her itself, the
Oh,
original
exactly.
creator of the IP. Yeah.
1,000%. 1,000%. Anyway, we better move on, but thank you for letting me talk about that.
Yeah.
So everyone's favorite segment, should I sweat this? Okay. Should I sweat this? My boyfriend and I are both gamers. We went to high school together and now we're at the same college, and I live with him and his family. His parents are really nice and very supportive of me. Recently, I noticed he started playing a gambling type game on his phone. And at first, I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to be judgmental, but then I noticed he was spending more and more time and spending a lot of his own money, to the point where I'm pretty sure I saw him entering his mother's credit card the other night. I don't know what to do because I think he's developing an addiction to these gambling games and also losing a lot of money. It's hard because I not only live with him, but his parents, and I'm scared he'll break up with me, and I love him a lot. What should I do?
I mean, gambling issues are, it's like, that's a very serious issue. I
It's
like,
pretty serious.
let's like, I feel like we can, oh, sorry, I just hit my mic. We could probably separate it over the fact that like some people are just like gambling in itself is wrong and unethical. Like, I can, sure, but like, I think it's more the fact that she's noticing that it's affecting his life. It's affecting his relationship. He's taking money from his parents. Like, to
Yeah.
me, if like he was gambling a little bit once in a while and it wasn't really affecting anything, even if he was losing a little bit of money, like to me that's like not a problem.
No,
To some people that
no.
might be like, maybe they're just like don't do gambling at all, but for me I'd be like that's fine. But it's when it's
Yeah.
impacting your life, especially if you see a
Hmm.
future with this person, because
Yeah.
maybe this is like really real, like realistic of me. I always think about like financially, you know, someday if you get together and married, like you need to think of yourself as a unit, and finance is a big part of that, like how you
Yeah.
approach finance and you know all of that stuff. So
No, I totally agree with you. It's so funny, right? Because it's like you kind of think, oh, it's just like a game. I don't really get it. Like, I don't really get gambling games. I've never played one, but I know that there's a lot of like, enter your credit card and this and whatever, right? And I I think in some ways, because it's like just a game on your phone, I almost feel like it'd be easy to take it less seriously, as opposed to someone with like a gambling addiction where they're at the casino or they're betting on the horses. You're kind of like that is more seen as a gambling addiction. But as time goes on and we live in a space where we're so on our phones, you can see how like that could spiral out of control. And we touched on this a little bit last week when we discussed that girl who had a gambling, not who she had a video game addiction, but she like overcame it. And yeah, it's just it is an addiction. I mean, the part of this that really struck me was when he was using his mom's credit card. Like shit, that's
yeah,
bad.
yeah, then you're like, that's something major red flags there. But it's really interesting what you just said, because I think you're totally right. When you're thinking like, oh, it's an issue when it's gambling, when they're always going to Vegas, when they're always going to bet on horses or something, you know what I mean, or something like
Yeah.
that. But gambling in video games, whether that's actually like your traditional gambling, but in on your phone or a video game form, but there are a lot of like laws across, and they differ depending on country. Like in Belgium, they have very strict laws against like random box systems in video games. So these are like, and because it's considered gambling. And so like a random box in
Yeah.
a video game is just like you open up a box and you're trying to see all this virtual content. It's not even like real stuff. It's like, oh my God, what am I going to get? And I just keep opening them because they're random stuff that I can get, maybe skins, like consumables, like whatever. But that's considered gambling, and depending on where
Right.
you are, there's like laws against that to help protect players.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's something that I actually deal with a lot at work. So it's just like a very interesting topic that it's like it does prey on people's gambling addictions sometimes when it's
Fuck yeah,
predatory.
dude.
So, but this one sounds like it's just straight up
Absolutely.
gambling, but on the phone. But yeah, I would definitely have a conversation. I mean, you love this person. You're clearly integrated with their family. You live with them, right? Like, it's okay to have that conversation with him, and maybe even bring in the parents. I don't know if that's like feels like
I know.
tattletaling
I
though,
was
you know.
kind of thinking that I would probably talk to the boyfriend first, and
Sure.
then I would consider, depending on where things go, talking to the parents.
Yeah.
But the thing is, because you wanna nip that in the bud. Like he's probably pretty young. I mean, he's in college, so you want to get nip that in the bud because that can spiral out of control really quickly, and that's a very real addiction. I mean, there's a support group for gamblers,
Yeah.
so you really want to get on that. But also, like, as much as I get, like, living with someone and being like, okay, well, I live with them, like, don't, like, let that take away your worth in a way. Like, if he's gambling and spending all of his money, disrespecting his mom, not spending enough time with you, like, that just, I know you might need to live there, but, like, make sure you're getting the respect you deserve too, you know?
100%. I fully agree with that.
Yeah. But that's a tough situation. So sending you all the love and just have a conversation. Um, we believe in you. Okay, should I sweat this? My boyfriend and I have been dating for a year and he's a great boyfriend. He's really supportive and kind. Recently, I noticed the Fit and Fresh podcast, this is so fucking recent, lost monetization. Oh my God. Monetization. Say
Monetization?
it. Monetization of YouTube. Fuck, bro. I saw a lot of memes and people mocking the boys who are known for their super misogynistic content and blatant hatred of women with their old fashioned views. Facts on facts. I mentioned to him in passing and assumed he would agree that they didn't deserve a platform. I was really shocked when he said he loved the pod and was disappointed in YouTube for taking away their monetization. I can't stop thinking about this and how he could support men who align with people like Andrew Tate and Pearl. I feel like I suddenly don't know him. I've never heard him say anything sexist or problematic. What should I do?
It's like those things like, is this like a red flag if it's the one thing that you've noticed? You know what I mean? Because it seems like he
Yeah.
hasn't done anything that went against your values beforehand, but it's like the same thing when you're
Right.
like, when people listen, of course, if someone listens to Andrew Tate, when I hear someone is like an avid Joe Rogan listener,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, why? You know,
Why is that?
let's get
Like
into
the
that.
Joe Rogan of it all, I feel, listen, I think the stereo holds up, but I think it's less problematic than Fit and Fresh. Like Fit
Oh
and
yeah,
Fresh
yeah,
are
I do agree.
fucking wildin'. They're wildin'.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't, yeah, they're crazy. So it's a pretty big red flag.
it is a
I
red
don't know what
flag.
to tell you.
You know what?
They're
It's kind
telling
of
women to make sandwiches. They align with this book that's called Men Are Better Than Women, or like Why Women Deserve Less. I'm not joking.
I've never listened to their stuff, but I've heard like, yeah, you're right. Those are that's like a major red flag. Like, because I feel like some people too are like, oh, like it's not serious, or I just think it's funny. You know, like I don't believe in what they're saying, but I think it's funny, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
I don't buy that
I
shit.
don't buy that because I feel like if you just keep consuming that content or you keep saying something or hearing something, even if it's
Yep.
a, quote unquote joke, like
Yeah.
there like there's like psychological studies that impacts you, like how you think,
Hmm.
in the same way that posing can impact you, how you
Yeah.
feel and how you think. So definitely a red
Yeah.
flag.
I would be really cautious, what you consume in those kind of spaces and like, yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's a good idea. I had therapy today and my therapist wants me to read this book and she was like it's going to be triggering, blah blah blah, and I was like okay, and I was telling her like oh yeah it is triggering, and because I find the content difficult, it's very valuable. I'm learning a lot from it and stuff, um but because sometimes it triggers me a little bit, I only listen to it in 20-minute increments because I know that content that I'm consuming, oh, it does matter. It does affect us. And I'm like, oh, if I'm not feeling my best and then I'm listening to, this therapy book, sometimes it's not the greatest choice,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I think yeah, you definitely need to be aware of it. In terms of like, what are you gonna do? I don't know.
I like okay, like I forgot if they said how long they were with this person, you know,
Let me
like did
look.
they say this is like a
No,
long-term
for a
rela-.
year, for a year. They've been dating for a year.
I mean,
So she kind of knows him,
she
you
got
know?
yeah, a year is like long enough that I feel like to start to get to really know somebody. I
I
don't
would
know.
talk to them about it, but
You
you have to accept what they say because they
do
might
you?
say some no, like as in
Oh,
okay, what I
except like
mean by
that's their
that
truth. Like that's that they believe that or
you no,
yeah.
you don't have to accept what they say, you have to be prepared for what they might
Mm,
say.
mhm. Mhm.
Because I was dating a guy recently, and if it's not wildly obvious, I'm liberal, and I was dating a guy recently and I found out he was a Republican.
Mhm.
And I had no idea and I never would have thought it. And we had this conversation, and it's like there are certain things that being a Republican is not like I won't totally cut you off for that reason or anything.
Right.
It's just like certain things you can't agree with. Like you can't be like, we should have built the wall. You know what I mean? Like, like really obvious
Yeah.
shit. So we kind of had that conversation, and like that for me was like a okay, like this is that. Like I wasn't prepared for that, but I can't change that. So if I want to continue being with this person, I have to do so knowing this about them. Do you know what I'm
Mm,
saying? It's like if you back together with someone who cheated on you.
yeah.
It's like they can't change what they did.
You need
It's
to
been done.
accept that truth. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's
Can you
fair.
accept that truth? You know?
Maybe
I don't
there's another
know.
way. Maybe there's two ways. It's like, can you either accept that truth? And, you know,
Yeah.
for someone like me, to be honest, I wouldn't be able to, but I'm not this person. Or like, not to say that you can change, like, oh, it's not your job to change people, but like, if you sit down and have a conversation and talk about why it makes you upset, like how it makes you feel that, you know, because you're a woman, and
Mm-hmm.
like kind of like logic it out with him and being like, do you see why this is like super problematic or how this affects me in such a negative way? Like, do you still have such strong opinions on this that you really like them? Like, even knowing how uncomfortable it makes me feel? Right. And then
Right.
and maybe I don't know if he's gonna change, or maybe he has the empathy and then he's like, oh shit, like I love you, it makes you really uncomfortable. Maybe I just didn't think about that before, but because you talked to me
Yeah.
about it, maybe that's me like
Mm-hmm.
wishful thinking. But maybe give him a chance if you love him, like try to have that
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah,
But
and
be
we have to give people room to grow too. You know, like
Yeah.
sometimes we do, we might have thought something problematic in the past. Like
Oh
you,
yeah, yeah,
your
yeah.
viewpoints can change. So like I think what you're saying is good. Like he could be like, "Yeah, damn, you're kind of right. Like shit, that's bad. And he could. It feels unlikely, but it could happen.
Yeah, and then you have to prepare yourself for the other way where it's likely that he's not gonna see it. So
Yeah. Oh, what a tough spot to be in.
that really
Life really
is.
threw you a curveball there. You're like in love, living and loving, and then you're like, wait a minute.
But I always say it's better you learn now before you're
Mm-hmm.
married and you're legally locked in with somebody,
Yeah. Or you're
or
knocked up.
you have a baby. Oh yes, or you have a baby with
A
them.
baby.
Whoo! Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Because then things are just different. Like, maybe you just have to accept it for the sake of your child. Like, that's a whole different scenario. So,
Yep. Yep. My sister always says that to me. She's like, you better know who you're gonna have a kid with, because it's so hard to have children.
yeah.
So Okay, so we're kind of running over time, so we are going to wrap things up. But before I do, I have a couple of questions, some leftover questions from the Q&A that we posted, or AMA, sorry, that we posted on Instagram. And so I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions. Maybe I'll answer them too, Morgan.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm
Are you
ready.
ready for this interview?
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to ask you, someone submitted, where do you want to be in 5 years? Isn't this hard? Such a hard
Yeah. I should be
question.
thinking about this question more often, to be honest.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Same.
Um,
I should
five
be too.
years. Like, I mean, and there's multiple ways to answer this because you can break it down in different like categories or vectors. Like, where do you want to be professionally? Where do you want to be in your love life? Where do you want to be in health? You know what I mean? Or that's just like
Yeah.
how my brain is working, that like the answers are going to be different.
Hmm.
But I guess, are they talking
Overall,
about the
though, what's
podcast or just like us?
no, 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 no. I think you can talk about. I didn't. Yeah, I didn't take it that way. Oh, maybe they did mean the podcast, but you should talk about like your career or like whatever your
Okay.
relationship.
I'll talk about, okay, I think from a career perspective, uh I'm hoping I'm like director level, have my own little product management team. I'm working on a really cool game coming out. Um, Pretty simple, I think there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah. I mean, okay, so love life. I mean, my love life's been the same. I actually don't need it to change that much. I just want to make sure that we're healthy in 5 years. But
Mm-hmm.
health,
Do you want to have a house by then? Will you be living in a house?
a house might be nice. I just feel like I don't know if it's super reasonable in this like being just
Mm,
like in our, like not just this economic climate, but just like being a millennial and owning a
yeah.
house, like an actual house in LA is really
Yeah.
tough.
Right. Do you think you'll be in LA still?
I do want to move back to New York. I do want to
Wow.
do that.
I could see you being a New York girly.
Yeah, I can see that like within my 10-year plan, like going back
Right.
to New York. I don't
Yeah.
know about 5 years, but I did always want like a house. Like it was more of a recent thing. Ever since I got dogs, I was like,
Mm,
I want a house. I want a nice little picket fence so my dogs can run around. I'm getting very tame, very domesticated, like,
yeah.
and I
I'm
genuinely
getting
want that.
tame too, and it's bizarre. This is the first year where I'm like, oh, I'm really quietening down.
Yeah. So,
That's cool.
but I wouldn't say that's like a top goal of mine to like get a house or anything like that. Because
Right.
um, something that I fully aware of, I suffer from lifestyle tax. So it's really, which it really means that like the more income I make or the more money I make, I really
Will you
enjoy
spend?
spending it.
Mm.
I like doing
You
like,
travel a lot. You'll travel a lot, and
I love
you have an
traveling.
expensive lifestyle too.
Yes, I do. Like I like getting my nails done. I love going on vacations. I like getting massages, and I fully am aware that I'm really, really, really fucking lucky to be in a place that I can do these things. But I also know that I enjoy them, and so I like to do them. And
Yeah,
if I
you
have the
worked
money to
really
do
hard
it,
for them.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
But which means I don't have money for a house.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I get that. I get that.
Oh
Just
my
make sure
god.
you're saving.
Yeah, yeah. I'm definitely still saving. Oh my god, that reminds me. My When I went to go visit my mother a few months back, my literal conversation with her was about like homes, and just like I was trying to teach her how difficult it is, like with interest rates and how much like average income is, but how much the average price of a home has risen. And she's like, well, Morgan, you guys really just love spending. Like, maybe if you like you order a lot of guacamole. And I was like, are you I
Guacamole.
was like, Ma, I love guac. You're right. I always get that with my Chipotle order. But I was like, is this a real conversation that you're telling me that I can't afford a
Yeah,
house because I spend it?
parents are so random. My
Yes.
mom told me that she wanted me to stop painting my toenails white. She was like, it doesn't look good. I was like, okay. Like, I didn't even know what to say. I was like, all right, thanks for sharing that
Yeah.
with
It's
me.
probably just some like
Like,
old biasy, like, like,
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah. No, like they're so weirdly, they pick the weirdest things to like hyper focus on. But that's just like so fucking generational.
I
Like,
know. Will it
I'm
be? It
just
might
like,
be us.
yeah, I'm like, just do your thing, just have your opinions. You just can't take anything they say too personally.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, the reason you can't buy a house is definitely guacamole.
Yeah. Maybe it is
Yeah.
the vacations, but like still.
Okay, okay,
But
got
what
it.
about you, Miranda? Like 5 years. Are you going to be back in Australia, you think, in 5 years?
I think so. I
Okay.
do think so. I actually would like to be based in Sydney, but I would like to go back and forth between here and LA. So like
Mm.
I I don't know if I would ever be able to like afford to have. I mean, I said I couldn't buy a house here or in Sydney, so let's just be realistic. But like rent for a period of time, I would love it if our podcast was successful enough. Like we could do seasons, like we had like a
Yeah.
season of the show, and I come back for like 3 months or something, and live here and rent a place and record or whatever it might be. Like I can come and audition or do my voiceovers, but at this point in my life, I do want to be based in Australia if I can, so I can be near my family, and that's where I feel my heart is at this time. But I've been here for 9 years, so it's a really, really big choice to move back to Australia, but I am working towards that choice. So that's my plan. My dream is that I'm married. 5 years, maybe like have a baby on the way or have a
Oh.
baby already. I don't even have a boyfriend, so this better happen soon. Um, I would like to have a cat and a dog,
Okay.
and I would either want to be like doing voiceovers for kids shows, or I would want to be doing like still doing video game stuff, but I really wanted to get into animation, either for kid shows or like adult type animation shows. I would love to be on a show back in Australia, or at least be acting regularly in Australia, possibly in America too, like the podcast. Like I definitely want to still be being creative, and if like I go home and I feel like my passion isn't there, I would also be interested in working full time in like a creative role, like working for a podcast network or something, doing like content production, like producing for a podcast or something like that. Yeah, those are, I know it's like so random of a thing. Like it's like, I don't necessarily know career wise because I work in a creative field, so it's so hard to say. But I definitely would love to be in a relationship and have a kid coming or have a child and have a dog and a cat
Yeah. Have we
and be
talked?
around my family.
How many kids do you want? Have we talked? I don't think we talked about that before.
I've always found kids to be like something I just can't imagine for myself, but I also can't not imagine it for myself. So it's really difficult. And I like definitely seeing my nieces and nephews grow up has made me realize like how much I love them so much. Like, and I'm like, yeah, like maybe I do want children. But I would probably want to have two because I don't want to have an only child. I think being an only child I, it's not always the greatest, I don't think.
Yeah.
So probably two, but I don't imagine I'd have more than that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. I feel like yeah, only an only child like it's just like a completely different. You're growing
It's a
up in a
different
different
vibe.
environment than like this. You learn
Hmm.
so much having siblings, fighting with them and
Yeah.
learning with
And
them,
you
all that.
process fucking trauma because of your siblings. If I didn't have my sister when my dad died, oh my God. I don't know what I would have done. I would
Yeah.
have spiraled into another universe. Like processing trauma together has made and our childhood, not that I had a bad childhood at all, but like you still have shit that happens and it's just so valuable, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So yeah, I definitely would want to have two if I can. God willing, babe. Let's just meet a lovely person
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Good Lord. Um, my therapist thinks I have commitment issues, so I'm going to work on that privately and I'll let you know. Oh, okay. Lastly, would you recommend your industry to someone wanting to pursue it?
I
And
would
maybe what's a tip? What's one tip you would give them?
um oh I would definitely. I love what I do and I think I mean you know this already and I've spouted this many times, but I really think our industry it's important that we become more diverse. So as you know, so I want more people who have different backgrounds who think differently. Like I want them to join the industry. So I'm always like saying like yes, come join. The truth of it, it's not always like rainbows and butterflies all the time, right? Like there's
Yeah,
lots of issues with it. There's still sexism, there's crunch, there's like a
yeah,
myriad of like a lot of issues, but you find those things everywhere too, right?
for sure.
Is the truth
Yeah,
of it.
right.
If
Nothing's
you
perfect.
if you want to join the gaming industry, the thing is like the gaming industry is actually really small. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people have been in the industry for 10, 20 years. Like, they bring the people that they know, they trust to their next game, you know? Like, they use that to get funding to make new studios and all of that stuff. So so it can be actually pretty difficult to get your foot in through the door, at least on like the development side of games.
Mm.
So God, I would say like the biggest advice that I would give, and it's hard to generalize because there's so many like different types of roles that you can
Yeah,
you
it's
can
hard to give
do,
advice. I feel that too. Yeah.
is like I think like just a couple things like when you play games yourself, take a critical eye, like from a like a player perspective, and try to think from like different types of players. I think like pretty much all gaming companies, or okay, I'm not going to say all, most gaming companies, whether they actually do this or not is different. They say that they care about the player experience, or that gameplay is first. Now you can argue whether those companies actually do that, but I think it's really important to always hone in on that in your interviews. Like, I've never found a gaming company where you're like, no, it's not about the game, it's not about the player experience. Like, I just want, like, games are about this, not about players. Like, I've never seen a gaming company like take that and be like, yeah, we agree, you know what I mean? And so
Hmm.
I think genuinely being able to think from other people's shoes, that's actually having empathy of like different,
Right.
like, the games that you dislike, somebody probably likes it. Somebody probably thinks that's their favorite game. Why? You know? And kind of take what are the greatest parts of that, even if you don't like it, and being able to articulate that and talk about it will help, whether you're an engineer, whether you're a designer, a product manager, even a producer. And so I think being able to do that and think like critically and take a step back is like a soft skill that you can have. Now, I don't, it's not going to get you like through the door being like, oh, she's really good at thinking critically and like taking a step back and having empathy. But I think it makes you really good at what you do if you're able to take that approach.
I get that. Taking things as serious, it's almost like there's no small roles, just small actors. I always say that. It's like a famous quote.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's like you can't judge a part, you can't judge the show you're in, you can't judge the text, right? Like you just have to, that's the world you're living in as the character. It's the same thing for you, right? If you're
Mm-hmm.
working on a game, it's not your place to judge it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. What
Okay.
what
Well,
would you, I guess
that's a good tip.
same, well, you, I know you've given a lot of
I
really great
just
advice though.
I would say to you, if someone was, listen, if my niece or nephew said that they wanted to be an actor, I would really deter them from doing it. That's the
Mm.
truth. That's the
Mm-hmm.
truth. I really don't recommend this for a lot of people. However, it doesn't matter if I tell you not to do it because so many people told me not to do it and I did it anyway. And those are the people that should be doing it. The
Yeah.
people that should be doing it are the people that are going to do it regardless of whether you recommend it or not.
Yeah.
If you're sitting around questioning it, like maybe it's not for you. Because if it's for you, you won't be able to do anything else. It will simply just be in your heart and you will have to follow that. You know, you'll be called to it. And if you do something else, it will just make you fucking miserable. And
Mm.
that's kind of how I know a lot of creatives to be. And yeah, so whether I tell you to pursue it or not is really like pointless. But I would say that my top tip for being an actor or for being a voice actor is, and you know, people, this is more about voice acting, is like voice acting is acting. And so, in that way, you really want to be able to tell a story. And so, classes are really, really valuable. Like, you know, I say this all the time, but just because you can do a great voice or you might have a beautiful speaking voice, that might get you commercial work, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get you animation work or video games or anything like that. You have to be able to tell a story. You have to be able to emote through your voice. So you have to understand your own emotions and storytelling and subtext and all that kind of stuff. So it's really cool to like take a class and all that kind of stuff. And also acting and those kind of classes, they do help. They're kind of like therapy. They help you better understand yourself. So they're
Mm-hmm.
really worthwhile, you know?
Yeah.
That's my top tip.
It's a great tip, and I feel like people don't listen to it enough because I feel like people that want to get into acting, or just say I want to get into acting, want to get into voice acting, like it's still a craft. it's a skill. And it's like, yes,
Yeah.
some people have innate talent. Like some people are
Right.
maybe just
Sure.
naturally
Absolutely.
great at, great actors, but like it's still something that what sometimes that you need to work on. Like you need feedback. People need to see your work, give you feedback, and you need to implement it. I feel like some people are just like, oh, I'm a great liar, so I'm gonna go and just like
Mhm.
audition and not
Or
take a
they
class.
or they've been told they're attractive. A lot of people equate like
Mm.
being attractive with like acting.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
very weird. Like a lot of hot people are like, "Well, I should be an actor because I'm hot," and I'm
Yeah.
like, "That's not what it is."
Yeah.
Or like they yeah, they think they deserve the spotlight, like, or maybe and that's fine, like, but maybe be like an influencer or
Yeah.
something like that, which I think we'll see less people wanting to be actors because they'll realize like they can get that spotlight through being an influencer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like if you're seeking validation, you're not going to find it in the entertainment industry, that's for sure. You'll get burnt and torn apart.
You get a lot of rejections from what I
Yeah.
know. Yeah. If
Yeah.
anything,
Oh my God.
it'll
It
ruin
never
your
ends.
self-confidence if you don't have
Yeah.
any. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure, for sure. So just be wary of that. But yeah, those are our questions. This was kind of a longer episode, but I
Yeah.
have really enjoyed it.
Me too. Those questions really made me think. Like they're
Oh
always like,
my
"What are you gonna be and
God.
who do you want to be? What are you gonna do in 5 years?" I'm like,
Yeah.
gosh,
Write it down. Write it down.
I'm gonna think about it a little bit more because I was
Yeah.
kind of answering out of my ass for this one, but I really do
Mm.
need to have like
A plan. A
five,
5-year
ten
plan.
year high level plan.
Okay, maybe I should write a 5-year
Yeah.
plan too. All right, guys. Thank you so much. This was episode 18 of Blood, Sweat, and Games. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave us a review. We love you so much. Thanks for supporting the podcast, and we'll be back next week.
Thanks everyone.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye, stream. Not that anyone's watching. Did anyone else comment?